making it real big and clear that the Holy Knights under Arthur are the bad guys. Like they are very much not. It's not like a perspective thing. This is definitely a yeah. You're pretty bad in this scenario. Like this whole setup for him is just they're the bad guys. Like I figured Arthur was going to be a little bit more like favoring of people, but obviously against all of the non-humans. Whereas now, I mean, like I don't know if it's like one of those things like the end is outweighed by the means kind of thing. So like sacrificing a whole village of civilians pretty much to use the coffin of eternal darkness is like yeah you're not looking too good, my guy. Like couldn't you have at least used like people who maybe were prisoners, like it's still a little bit of a dark term, but at least you don't use innocent people, like maybe just like bad people like murderers and thieves, and it's like all the most all the guys that are just rotten and they're pretty probably sealed up in a dungeon or any of their crazy fantasy prisons within the Seven Deadly Sins world. But now like they're just like, yeah, we're just gonna sacrifice these people. The full extent on what they're gonna do with the coffin of eternal darkness is still like that aspect didn't get fully revealed. I think it's gonna be much bigger than just sealing up Meliodas, because I know Meliodas is strong, but I do believe that Arthur at this point should be you should be able to beat him. Like we know where Arthur was power wise, and after he destroyed Kath at the end of Seven Deadly Sins, and like how dangerous his power is. He should be beyond Meliodas at this point. I know that's like, that's an assumption because he wasn't as trained. Meliodas would be able to defeat him just off of like tact and strategy and way more experience. Like at the end of Seven Deadly Sins, but very clearly he's more powerful now. We haven't even really seen him. Like we only have heard of people talk about him since the continuation happened. But we did see a pocket dimension where he keeps Camelot in. So that by itself is a sign of how powerful Arthur is currently. I fully believe that Arthur isn't like I don't think Arthur would get anything beyond maybe a medium level, like a mid difficulty to fight against Meliodas. Maybe it's like one of those things where it's not just going against Meliodas. Like he wants to take out all of them, but he has to take out Meliodas primarily because otherwise you're gonna have Meliodas and Bon and any of the other like big people that aren't that wouldn't be on Arthur's side teaming up, and that might be more of the problematic thing, is my guess. Because like 1v1, I very much believe he should have no problem beating them. It's kind of like just like a comparison thing, obviously not the same series. Like you have Acnologia and you have the 5 dragon gods who are all said to be around level with him. He could beat any of them 1v1. But if they all teamed up, I don't think they would really team up just because they tend to have conflicting interests and personalities. But just in the idea of them teaming up, they should be able to beat him even if he by himself is way more powerful than them. Allegedly equal, but just based off of like abilities, like he would just outclass them and stuff. But with Arthur, we know Arthur's ability like is the best one in the Seven Deadly Sins world. We know that the Chaos is like the peak power for them. The only thing that is a threat to him are the Four Knights, the Apocalypse. I think it's more than just wanting to seal the Demon Clan. That they said that they disappeared 16 years ago, but I think that just means they're in hiding somewhere, or like I don't think they just straight went back to Purgatory and like they're all just kind of down there. I think that they are hidden somewhere. Just think of like some form of underground society, or they're really good at blending in, and maybe you don't even notice them in, maybe, I would assume Leonis, because protection from Meliodas is really the biggest thing that they could possibly have against someone like, Arthur. And assuming Merlin is on his side too, Merlin's still around, like, we know how OP Merlin is in their world, and Merlin is like a whole big mess by itself. I would wonder if Arthur and Merlin teamed up, if they would even, like, if Meliodas and the other Sins really would stand a chance. Because, like, you have this OP spellcaster in the back and this guy with the chaos power, and, like, he's got Excalibur on top of that, so I don't know. I just find the idea of him needing the coffin to get rid of specifically Meliodas like a little bit of a stretch. I think it's going to be more like grand of a way to use it. I think they're going to do more than just getting rid of the demons. I think it's going to be something towards a multitude of species. Like the only way that I can see it like being only on Meliodas and some of the demons. I guess Zeldris is there too. So Zeldris would be like a big addition, obviously, on top of Meliodas. So like if he's involved, it would make sense of like, okay, you know, we need to get away around it, because it's those big people teaming up, I think, would be a, you know, the big problem for them. And I would assume that stuff like the Holy Knights, they're nothing to like people like any of those big guys like that I mentioned on the side. No, that should be opposing to Arthur, because like Arthur and them don't seem to like the magical, like I always say magical, but it's like the non-human races. It's kind of difficult because humans in this world can use magic, and they are, you know, they can all use magical based abilities and powers for the most part, but the human, like usually when you say like magical races, it's just stuff besides humans, but obviously like just non-human races essentially is what they're aiming at. I fully believe that they have to have something bigger planned to use the coffin than just that. Maybe they're gonna modify it and use it on the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse. That could be a really legit thing instead, because it's like, okay, yeah, if you can seal them, or at least one of them, then you might, you know, prevent the whole prophecy of them showing up to beat Arthur, because they're allegedly the only characters who are a threat to Arthur at all. But chapter, like, we got a really nice color page, and then it was just kind of some dialogue, like I said, explaining about the Covenant of Eternal Darkness. We got some information on the affairs that have happened in the last 16 years, like, you know, the Demon Clan disappeared and whatnot. Ironside is, you know, apparently they're planning to sacrifice the whole town, like this whole village, in order to use it, because beforehand they had to use stuff from the Goddess Clan, but obviously they're not around to, you know, to use abilities and whatnot in order to gain the full access of it, to sacrifice themselves for it. Whereas now they're going to just use a blood sacrifice of all these people. That's when you get Anne. She just straight up goes and confronts Ironside on it. I know it's like, pretty much, yeah, you're full of shit. You don't really say much that isn't a lie. So people, why should anyone believe you? She reveals, like, you know, to the people around, like, she's got her whole ability to detect lies. She can pretty much see, as we've been shown, somebody who lies a lot, you know, having that like black aura to him, and like to her, Ironside just looks pitch black because he does nothing but lie. And he's like grabbing her, saying how she needs to be disciplined, needs to be punished, and that's when Percival jumps in, because Percival, like, he clearly was showing restraint at like not wanting to go directly at Ironside, but I don't think he could just stand by and watch like this girl get pretty aggressively handled by Ironside. And we don't know whether or not he was going to do anything beyond just grabbing her, because we know that he doesn't seem to care about killing people at all. Like, if he had to, he just felt like he probably would have killed her, and nobody could have really done anything. And especially because they were going to kill all the people in the town anyway, so I don't think it really would like have been much of a surprise if Percival didn't step in, if Ironside just started aggressively either torturing or just straight kill her. And then he's like freaking out. He's like, oh, you know, you're alive. And like, Percival just does not look happy at all. He looks grumpy. It's funny because Percival never has that rage look to him. We haven't gotten it yet. He just looks like he's a little bit ticked off. Like, he's just like, somebody just says something he does not approve of, and he's got to check him. But he's got to check him with his fists. Beyond that, he just pretty much sends in his little chibi Percivals. I want to get a name for those little guys at some point. I know like Quan's just been calling them chibi Percival. That's pretty much what I've been saying too, or like the mini Percivals. Puny Civil, I don't know. Can somebody think of a good nickname to call them? And then we got like this really cool panel. I wasn't too sure exactly what to use for the panel for this chapter, but I did really like this. I like Ironside's ability because, one, we don't have a full description of it, so we don't know exactly how it works. I'm guessing it's not going to be as basic as like he just makes like these weird finger slashes. I'm guessing it's going to be something beyond that. Like maybe it's like something like some weird, like he sends out magic in that shape, and then it expands at high speeds. That's why he can make shapes with it. Just imagine, you know, he makes an X out of magic. You can't see it, and then it just, you know, shoots in that general direction, expanding. I think that'd be pretty cool, because it would make sense, you know, some pressurized energy slicing into somebody, or some slicing into objects. But I do like it because at least right now, because we still don't have, like I said, we don't have the explanation on it. It looks cool, and it's easy to see and draw and to understand for the most part of what he's doing. We don't have the details yet, but we know how his attacks work and how he utilizes them. I'm guessing there's going to be more to it, and as well as he probably has more beyond this. It's like, if this is his only power, then I don't know. It'll be kind of weird, given that he's clearly a big deal, like to the story. Not like maybe overall, but, you know, personally set to Percival. Funny thing to say. But just, he is tied to Percival. Like, he is a Percival set character. He's, tied to the main character. He's got to have more value to him than just being, a smaller bad guy. Like, I like Talisker and his cool weather manipulation magic, but he didn't have the same level of big value that I think anybody can guess Ironsides as. I do want Talisker to come back. I'd like to see a 1v1 match at some point with him and Nasians. But they kind of screw up because they left the piece unguarded. That's when the maid lady that was working for they came to get Anne, just morphs. Looks like she's got some of the whole chaos staff messed with her body. She's like a monster, and she gets away with the piece. But now they're like, hey, we have to protect the town. We need to get stuff settled, and we need to figure out what we're gonna do. I really thought this was a good setup chapter. It did give us some information on stuff like what happened to the Demon Clan, what's going on with them, what's going on with Ironside, his plan. For the most part, we don't know the full extent of what he's, what they're going to do with the coffin. And I'm curious as to, if they just used it, they got the blood sacrifice, would it kind of, charge into it, and then, they can activate it when they want? Or would it be they get the sacrifice off, and then it goes off and does whatever they're planning? Because I feel like if it was something like that, they were about to fully set it off, they would have more people, more guards. It's it'd be like if you watched a movie, and it's the guy that's going to go retrieve whatever object, they only can send in maybe a couple people, some elite units to go in there. Versus whenever they're doing whatever ritual or whatever event they have planned for, their nefarious things. It would make more sense to have more people there to defend it, but plus you'd think they'd want to be present for it. So I think even if they got it off, they got the sacrifice off, it wouldn't really, they would have a time period between when they're actually going to fully utilize it. But anyway, other than that, pretty fair chapter, nothing great, but still good stuff. I'm very curious to see how they're going to do with Ironside stuff. But anyway, other than that though, comment below. Like I said, tell me what you think of a good name for Percival's Chibi Sword. Other than that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.